welcome to another episode of
Schools at Tea Time
On Tuesdays
with Tim and Anna.
Awesome. Well, we have a feel-good moment of the day, so sit back and relax. You might want to get a little bit of Kleenex, but I don't know. Here we go. We're going to watch a little movie and then have a little chat about it. Here we go.
Breaking news from Washington as lawmakers face
wildfires continue to allegations of misconduct.
Why you look so sad? Tears are in your eyes. Come on and come to me.
How hard is it just take some time out of your day to give them a ride to school and show them that you support them?
Be ashamed to cry. Let me see you through. 'Cause I've seen the dark side too. When the night falls on you, you don't know what to do.
When disaster strikes to one, we all get together and support each other. That's the nature of humanity.
I'll stand by you. I'll stand by you. Won't let nobody hurt you. I'll stand by you. So, if you're making mad, don't hold it all inside. Come on and talk to me now. Hey, what you got to hide?
It's a calling to the nation how great we are and how great we can be.
Well, I'm alive like you. When you're standing at the crossroads, don't know which path to choose. Let me come along. 'Cause even if you're wrong, I'll stand by you. I'll stand by you. Won't let nobody hurt you. I'll stand by you. And even if the dark is sour, and I'll never desert you, I'll stand by you.
breaking news from
All right, so every time I watch that, it gives me all the feels. And you watch all of these wonderful people going the extra mile. And Tim and I were talking about this, and the truth is that the anniversary of the official day of the pandemic is coming up. For our district, March 12th was when we shut everything down. That's coming up, and you see everyone going the extra mile, and we just wanted to say, we know you guys go the extra mile for your kids every day. You show up, you are there for them, and we appreciate that. And let's just take one moment and think about a time that maybe you or somebody else you know went the extra mile for somebody. And that ought to make us all feel really good. So educators rock. We thank you for going the extra mile every day. And it is a kind of a sad anniversary to think about, but not everything has been bad, right? With the pandemic, some things are good, and we learned some good lessons. So thank you, guys. All right. So Tim, do you want to take us down the yellow brick road?
Yeah, we're going to be following our usual roadmap today, starting out with our fan mail, which will introduce the theme of the week. And then after that, Anna will introduce our great special guest, and she'll be introducing a tool that we hope we'll all walk away interested and inspired by. So, and of course, we'll end with everybody getting a chance to check in with each other about what they're doing and get inspired by the work that we're all doing, because we have so much collective experience in this group.
That's true. So we're going to take a look at today's email from our imaginary fan base. Today we have a returning person, Rodney. Rodney said, "Dear Tim and Anna, I have been thinking a lot about our special population students, special education students, gifted students, ELL students, etc. I wonder if giving them an opportunity to create a portfolio of their work and give them a chance to tell their story would be empowering to them. How can technology help us accomplish this? Keep up the good work. Yours truly, Rodney. Rodney is bringing us some good things to think about, and that is very good because this week's theme is empowering special population students through portfolio creation. And I am very happy to introduce our special guest today. And Gina is a special ed teacher at Prairie View High School. And Gina, we really want to hear you pronounce your last name because I've been saying it and I'm probably, even though my grandma was Italian, I have probably been killing it. So why don't you say it so we can hear it?
Well, if I'm saying it properly, it would be Francalancia-Cancienne. But most people just say Francalancia.
Okay.
They've Americanized it.
And
So wait-
Gina, I want you to know, if you can't see the whole crowd, they're out there giving you claps and snaps. They're really happy you're here. I can see Caitlin and Flora and Michelle. Everybody's giving you virtual and real claps. So welcome.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing so that our special guest can share some cool stuff with us.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Let me make sure I'm not used to operating on Zoom. Can everybody see this portfolio, IEP portfolio?
Yes.
And Gina.
Thank you. All right. So, first of all, I've also been a K through 12 gifted and talented coordinator at Pinnacle Charter School before I went back to special education. So my whole career has been with special populations, and this virtual environment that we found ourselves thrown into a year ago created for me a big gap, because I always like to meet with my students and really involve them in the process of creating their IEPs or their ALPs, all of that stuff. So I developed this just as a way to kind of keep that connection going across the miles. So basically what I did was I just developed a hyperdoc that has links for everything that is important for their IEP. But then I gave space for the students to also put what's important to them. So you can see I'm at a high school, so we have progress towards graduation. This link for accommodations is accessible, is set to view for all of their general ed teachers, all of their interventionists. Sorry, I can't think right now. Then we also have their academic goals, their social emotional goals. I have a rubric. I tend to be very subjective when I'm looking at a student's progress, and I wanted to be fair to everybody. So I developed a rubric that has like a set goal for me personally, what I consider adequate progress or limited progress. But that's not a district or a state tool. It's just a Gina tool. And then there's a place where they link their supporting artifacts, assessment data, career inventories, and then the place for the student reflections. And everything is actually housed within this document, but you can get to it very easily just by clicking on the link. Go there and it has all of that. Take a look at a literacy goal right there. And what I generally do is I will set it for the student to have editing access when we're meeting virtually. So we work on the document together. And then I take away that editing access and give them view only access so that they're not changing it when we're not working together. I've also released editing access to some of the general education teachers from time to time so that they can input an artifact from their class. If they're in, let's say, a general education math class, that math teacher can then get in there and link artifact that shows that they're working on that math goal so that we have them all together in one place. Let's see. So that's what this would be. They link, and then I put the instructions for linking the document because not all the teachers know how to do that. So they would have, let's say, all of these reading examples, and then the goal rubric that I use to determine if those reading examples together show that they're making progress. And then let's see, assessment data. This is, of course, a fake student, but we'll say that that's where he's at. Career interest inventories, we have them do one every year. And then this is the good one. I took out what was in here because student privacy, but the students write a reflection right here of how they feel like they're doing. What did work for them? Did the accommodations work? What do they need? Where do they feel they had the most growth, the least growth, all of those things, so that when we're having our IEP or our ALP meeting, we have the student's voice right there. I've noticed, excuse me, through the years that students tend to get very quiet when they're in a room with their parents and 4 or 5 teachers. So this way they've already had a chance to think about it and put it in writing so that we can take a look at it. And that's it in a nutshell. I didn't want to go in too much detail, but again, we have adapted this for ALPs, for our CLD team is using it to put their CLD goals. Our counselor team is using it for 504 goals. And I have this couple of teachers who are using it just because they're monitoring students for the RTI process. And it's nice to have everything in one spot. I will highly recommend that you, excuse me, share this document as a view only with parents, because then they can keep up on what's coming in from all of the different teachers. There are things that the report cards or transcripts don't necessarily say. They can't find it in IC, but this makes it all easy for them to find in one place.
Okay.
That was
No,
a little fast, sorry.
this is great. So here's a couple questions for you, and we do have some time if people in the audience would like to ask you questions, but I see that you have on the left side, you have a like a table of contents. So is that something that you get just using your Google Doc, or did you have to do something special for that?
No, when you write anything, so if you were to type, of course, it's not going to let me do it here. Right here, let's say sample section, and see how it's adding it right there on the left for you. It's all in about where you have the formatting. If it's a heading, it's going to put it over here in your table of contents for you.
Okay.
If it's normal text, it's not going to put it over here.
I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's kind of like the shared notebook in Microsoft. What's that called? Oh, there's a shared. What's that?
Is it OneNote?
Yeah, OneNote. It's kind of like
Yeah.
OneNote with the tabs. Also.
Exactly. And actually, our school is working on transferring it all to a Google site for next year. We're doing Google sites that are going to be complete notebooks, like with work from all of their classes for every single student from their freshman year to their senior year. So I'm pretty excited for that. So right now they're linked into their skeleton notebook, but hopefully by next year, they'll actually be an interactive part of their Google site.
Oh, that'd be great to have them contributing information. Perfect.
Yeah, that sounds really good. So then I take it that, you know, where you have progress towards graduation and it has a little hat and all of that, that is all customizable, right? You created that and just put the hyperlink on there?
Yep. Yeah, so if you were, like, say, using this for an RTI student that you were, you could put on here strategies, intervention strategies, and put a list of what you've been using in which classes. You can put anything you want. Important thing to note, sorry, is that when you put a document on there like this, you have to make sure you set the share settings on that document to view, so that people who click on the link can view that document too. I made that mistake in the beginning. I had this beautiful document and they would click on things and they couldn't see anything I put in there.
Yeah, Google and requests, request to view and editing requests, they always get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, does the audience have any questions for Gina before we go into our breakout rooms?
You know, Anna, I was just going to say that sometimes this kind of documentation as a teacher, you're like, oh, I don't have time to keep that up. But the research is showing that there's like a huge effect size. Like you can bring kids up 2 or 3 grade levels by teachers cooperatively thinking about those students and sharing information and like taking that time, which seems like you don't have that time, can can save so much time on the other end, because it really makes a real difference to kids when teachers talk and collaborate and do this kind of work. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you have middle school or high school students, if you have this framework and you just keep copying it over and over again, and then you have your students take, 1 hour and link documents to it, make them do the work. Once it's set up, it's easy. And most of these kids know how to do that. And if they don't, it's a great learning experience for technology that they can use far beyond the classroom.
So Kaylin has a question in the chat for us, for you. Are teachers willing to participate, or does the tech scare them when you ask?
Well, it depends on the teacher, I'll be honest. I have some teachers who will send me an email and they'll put in the email, this is the document I want to link. So then I'll link it for them. It doesn't take that long. But we have at our school 3 or 4 people who are like the go-to tech people. Plus, I know that most of you guys met Robbie Makeley, who's our digital learning coach, and she is amazing and works with all of those teachers to help them learn how to do that. And usually the feedback I get is, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how easy it was. Because it's not hard. It's scary at first, but once you've done it, it's not hard.
Yeah, we were just talking with Michelle before we started today, but I definitely think we've all sort of found the pandemic has pushed us to become familiar with and more comfortable with tech in general. So probably a lot less than a year ago too. Yeah.
Well, and I just think that this form of organization is just so easy for kids to understand and participate with you. And yes, you're right. Having to do a lot of this over the internet is tough, but being able to share the screen and develop something like this, and really you could do this for an ELL student, you could do this for an ALP student, for a gifted student. So and honestly, you could do this for your regular student and have a portfolio of work to share for parent-teacher conferences that are coming up for us. So this could be used in so many ways and so many different things for kids.
Yeah, and if you teach younger learners, I know Gina teaches high school, but if you teach younger learners who are not able to read and write yet, or specific kinds of disabilities that mean that you have difficulty writing, you can always embed Google Voice directly into the document, where they hit a microphone and they say what it is they want to contribute to the document instead of having to type it.
I have high school students that do that with Moat. That just they're not typers, they don't want to. And then I just wanted to say, one of the other things we're looking at, I don't know how many people here deal with the older children, but with these new high school graduation requirements and whether they get a diploma or they get a certificate of completion, a lot of people in the SPED world are fighting for some sort of portfolio demonstration, because our kids might not necessarily get fantastic scores on the SATs. So this is a step that if that ever gets approved, we already have half of the groundwork done.
That's good to know. All right. Well, Gina, we thank you so much for sharing that. I am going to take over the sharing now. All right. We do appreciate you coming and doing this awesome presentation for us. I think it could be used in so many different ways. So we are getting ready to go to our breakout rooms. And Tim, will you share the prompt with us?
Yeah, the prompt today is, what are some ways that you currently are empowering your special population students? And maybe what kinds of portfolio creation, self-reporting do you have your students do in order to kind of track their own progress and to be able to have a sense of ownership over that? So how could you use portfolio kind of things with kids at your grade level and with the students you deal with, especially with your special populations?
All right, so we are going to put you in breakout rooms, but if you receive an invitation to join breakout room number 1, do not accept it. Stay with us because we will then record our conversation right here. So I'm going to open the rooms. And again, number 1, don't accept it. Stay with us and we can chat. Here we go.
All right, everybody, have a good conversation. Anna, I'm going to go out to a room if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I already shared my way.
I don't have any. I'm preschool right now, but last year what I did had somebody in IEP, and I think that we didn't have the vision that you have of the portfolio, but I wish I could go back and reinvent that because it's a very unique tool to give the families. But yeah, I only have my IEP last year. I don't have nobody in IEPs this year.
Thank you, Flora.
Flora, was that you in the Denver Post this week? Oh, you inspired me with your work. Everybody Google search Flora Moreno, Denver Post, talking about her preschool students.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do that. How about the rest of our guests? How do you guys do some organization with your special population?
I found I did a year exchange in Australia, and they use a portfolio. It's not electronic, and I was contemplating the whole idea of having it be electronic. But what we did is we had binders for each child, and then those binders were divided into different categories. And so when we do have a special needs student, then whatever their academic goal might be or their social goal might be, then we can document that in some way, whether it's an anecdotal note or samples of their work. And that has been very successful.
So
that's what I did pre-pandemic.
Right. I was just going to ask that if you're able to do that now with so many people being online.
I haven't had to do it now.
Okay.
Setting it up is the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of it being online in that they could track. It sounds like you're tracking Gina over multiple years.
Yeah.
Which is good.
For us, this will follow them all 4 years of high school.
It's harder to have the paperwork follow that long. Yeah.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. Apricot, how do you do your kids?
That's when you're listing all those different categories of students that just describes my classroom. I've got everything from GT through SPED, everything in between ELL. I mean, I'm like, yep, check, RTI, check. I'm like, so I'm thinking, so right now I don't really have like a portfolio thing we do with the students. I do like a daily hyperdoc that helps the kiddos keep organized. Like, here's all your reading assignments, just click on it, gives you the directions. Here's your math. So for all my students, it's right there, easy to go to. That same routine every day kind of helps all my kiddos, whether they're on the high end or not. But as you guys were talking, I was thinking it'd be really fun to do the portfolio, like for the parent-teacher conferences, or even just like a writing portfolio throughout the year. They could take their final published pieces, and we could have, a category on that hyperdoc for, informational writing and fiction writing, and then they could select their favorite ones, and then they'd have that whole portfolio at the end to demonstrate, their success over the year. So I think that's a really exciting idea.
Yeah, I like that too. I still remember when I used to teach, I used to have a little file folder for each student, and they would start collecting work in there, and that's how we did our parent teacher conferences. Then they would go through all of their stuff. They would pick the best ones. They would write a reflection about it. But, now with everybody having technology and access to technology, it makes it a little bit easier. So you don't have, all that paperwork. I always was like, my gosh, this is like a fire hazard, you have 30 kids in a classroom and then you have all this paperwork. But I think in terms of empowering kids, they are really in control of what they're showing and making a choice about what they're showing and being proud of it. And I think that there's a lot of good things about having them be a part of that creation.
Mostly something I heard a lot this year was, I never knew what my test scores were before.
Oh my.
They didn't know what they got on FastBridge and what that meant. They knew that they got a 30 on the DCA, but where was that compared to everybody else? So this actually also helps them figure out like what that means for them. And I also find that if they can see that they went up or down on the DCA, they tend to try a little bit harder on the next one.
Absolutely. I mean, they say, self-reflection and setting goals for oneself are so important. They're great strategies for kids. So sometimes I think we want to protect especially our SPED kids from seeing a score because it hurts their feelings. But I think it can be done, and it should be done, and it can be done in a nice way that empowers them. They can look at where they are and how much they're growing, and they don't necessarily maybe have to compare with the rest of the class, but they can see their own growth. So that's great.
Yeah, my last job that I worked at, a teaching job, I know that we had students track their own progress, and I was always amazed at how if I had given them back a paper and written a grade on it, it would have been an F. But like I would say, so tell me, how did you do on that assessment? And a student would raise their hand and could be, jumping to call, and I go, yeah, tell me. And they'd be like, I got a 50% on that. I got a 50. And I would say, that's really great. Tell us why you're so excited. And they went, well, on the pre-test, I only got a 25. So I know twice as much as I did when we started this. And I'd be, that's really great. And I went, and are you happy staying there? Or do you want more? I want to do even better. Would you like to ask someone who did better what they did? Maybe they could give you some ideas about that. Why don't you pick someone? Does anybody want to, and then they totally were owning it themselves. It wasn't about me anymore or about the grade. It was about this notion that I can grow. Yeah.
Well, Tim, I bet you were an awesome, awesome teacher to the kids.
Except the ones that are in therapy, probably. But
well, we're bringing everyone back. I'm going to reshare my screen.
Oh, Beth is back. We got to quit talking about her.
All right. I think everybody's back, actually. I hope that your conversation was enlightening. We really had a good conversation up here. So we've reached the end, my friends. Episode resources will be in this folder right after the episode.
And I'm putting it in the chat now.
Okay, and the recording of this episode will be archived on our website at dmns.org. Ugo always sends those out in a little bit, and they're very awesome and nice to have.
Yeah, and Danielle is already talking about how they're going to use this idea this week at her school. So thank you, Gina, and thanks, Danielle, for being so committed, always growing and doing what we need to for our students. Thanks for spending another half hour with us, everybody. And join us next week when our special guest will be none other than the amazing Caitlin Elliott, who's right here today. You can see her there on your screen if you're looking at multiple people, who will be talking about social emotional data to empower our students. And so we really appreciate her coming and hope we see you next week.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see what Caitlin brings to us. And unfortunately, oh, I clicked too much. Unfortunately, we do have a 2-week hiatus coming up. There will be no Tools at Tea Time on March 23rd or March 30th. And we hope you enjoy your spring break. We will be back in April to celebrate our anniversary, right, Tim?
Yes. 1 year since all this craziness started and tea time.
That's right. And if you tell your friends, tell them to join us. And again, we are always looking forward to hearing what topics you are interested in and could be useful. And until next week, be good to yourself. And I put this flower on there because spring is coming. But you know, with spring also comes snowstorms, and there's a big one brewing. So make sure that you are safe and come see us next Tuesday.
Snow day, snow day.